Welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner, the second team leader here at Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So we like to jump on here every Wednesday and give you kind of rundown on what's gone on in the real estate market over the last week. So I hope everyone had a great holiday and we're headed into the new year. And we'll kind of go on a recap of what's gone on in the market over this last year and obviously what's gone on in the last week. So bear with us and we'll kind of go through it and hope we get some information out of here. As we do, we try to provide as much information as possible anytime you're thinking about buying or selling and keep you on top of the market of what's going on out there. So let's jump into it. Share my screen here for you. Alrighty. So over the last week, we've had 181 new listings go live. We had 100 contracts basically be written, so pending houses, and then 200 happy new homeowners over the holidays. So hopefully they got their holiday decorations up in that short amount of time, but congratulations to them. Get that in before the end of the year. So, yeah, so our numbers are down, obviously, with the holiday season. I think we had a huge, what is the polar vector or whatever, whatever they're talking about, how cold it was outside. So like right now it's 30 some degrees outside and it feels like a heat wave. So, maybe I'll spur some little activity in the market, getting out there and looking at houses. So, yeah, so nothing crazy here as far as the numbers go. Yes, they're very low. But obviously this time of year, the weather outside and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think we're pretty customary to what's going on in this aspect of it. So let's take a 30,000 foot view here as we take a look. So we had 2,300 homes just over that in the Omaha and Lincoln MLS active for your viewing pleasure. And then breaking that down in the Douglas Sarpy County, Omaha metro area, 17 existing homes are at 418 active homes that are out there, and then new construction total between completed houses and then houses that are under construction is 899. I believe when I was looking at it, the completed homes is like at 192. So you got a remainder of about 700 or so that are basically under construction. So spec homes out there. So there's going to be some inventory, I think, in this next year as builders are putting some of those in the ground. They have the lots. They want to keep their crews busy building those houses. Our months of inventory is just up just about 2.4. So kind of a general what the months of inventory. So basically, if we didn't have any houses come on the market after today, we'd have 2.4 months supply of inventory. So what does that mean to you as a buyer and a seller? Well, the parameters are 0 to 3 months is basically about a seller's market. And then from 3 to 6 is kind of a neutral market. And then from 6+ is, kind of going up that way is kind of what they deem as like a buyer's market. So I think in certain sectors, obviously that's the culmination of all of the price points out there. So some houses have been sitting out there a little longer, so we might have a little bit more month supply of inventory leaning towards that neutral market. So we have seen some of the houses been out there for a little while, which we deem as a little while. I mean, we were selling them in 7 days. Shortly, and now they're out there for 30 days. It seems like an eternity, but when I got my license 14 years ago, the average days on market was about 69 to 75. So we're still well below our average days on market. Average days on market right now is about 23, is what the last numbers that I saw in there. So our average sold price has gone up just a little bit in this month at 319. So I don't necessarily see that coming down, going in the negatives as far as our average sold price. And culminating, I guess, Russ, if you want to jump in here, what we're kind of seeing, over this next in 2023, I think rates are going to kind of moderate, still be jumping a little bit, but I think from a buyer's perspective and a seller's perspective, I think it's going to be kind of a more of a neutral market. And I think, as the rates kind of stabilize and people get used to, rates in the 5s and the 6s, which is still a great rate, looking over the 40-year, 50-year history, looking back. I think we might not see those double digits appreciations. But I think, over the long term, real estate is always going to be a great investment. Looking at history, obviously we can't predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball, but I think, now is a time to get in if you're seriously considering about buying a house. Sooner the better, ultimately, because as we get closer to that springtime, just historically, more homes come on the market, more buyers come on the market. The competition gets a little bit more competitive out there. So I think still it's going to be a great time out there to buy and get into a house. There's a lot of different programs that Russ has available to him for first-time home buyers and just in that aspect of it for investors. I know some lenders, we're at one time, we're letting you put down 15% down on an investment property. Not sure if that product's still out there, but there's different options out there at different times that, give us a holler, let us know. We're happy to sit down with you. What works best for you. I pride myself on, just coached hockey for 15 years, and I've just kind of been a coach's mindset. I teach CE classes, and just a coaching, teaching mindset for my clients, buyers and sellers of, hey, we're thinking of selling our house. Is this now a good time? Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. We're thinking about buying a house. Let's just sit down so you have the information so you can make a decision. Maybe now is not the right time. Okay, great. Well, when will be, and how can we get you to that point if that's something you want to pursue, rather than just sitting there, well, I don't think I can buy a house, for whatever roadblocks you think are in your way. Maybe those really aren't little roadblocks that we can help mitigate those and get you down a different path to, whether it's credit scores, income, debt, whatever we can do to help you get to that point. We don't just we're all about coaching and training and that relationship. We're not just here to, write contracts and get on to the next transaction. We're here to work with you and be your real estate advisor. Instead of being an agent, I feel I'm an advisor aspect of it that, when my clients are buying a house, hey, have you thought about investment properties in the future? Maybe you're buying your first house. Hey, let's look at it from, this is a great house to be in, but is it going to be a good investment property down the road that maybe you can keep this house, and go to a next one, keep it, rent it, gain some passive income? Because it's, the houses that I bought, my first house, I wish I would have, kept it, now that hindsight looking back on it, but you hear a lot of people say that down the road. I wish I would have, but we didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And that's our goal here, is to educate you through that process. So let's jump in here with Russ and see what, from a mortgage industry standpoint, maybe what his thoughts are on the mortgage side of it going into 2023 and where we're at today. So how's it going, Russ?
Mark, I'd echo the same thing that you just said. Certainly when you think of lending, the thing that comes to mind is interest rates, and they have come down since their peak in November. And we anticipate that as long as inflationary pressures continue to subside, which those numbers are looking better, that mortgage rates will continue to move downwards. Are we going to see 2% rates again? Highly, highly unlikely. So that means that if you want to buy a house, we've talked about it before, but marry the house and date the rate. Well, if the rates do come down, we'll improve your rate by refinancing you down the road. Also, when interest rates drop, we've talked about this, Mark, before, that typically brings more buyers back into the marketplace. A lot of folks are maybe thinking just like you are, that you want to wait until mortgage rates come down. Well, as those folks jump into the market, it makes a more competitive environment. What I'd encourage you to consider, and we ran across one today, is to maybe look a little bit outside of that cream puff home. For example, we ran into a situation today that the home checked off every box other than the furnace and air conditioning system really weren't going to work well for the property. They were at the end of their useful life. And there are ways that can be financed into the loan in some cases. So keep an open mind, make sure you're working with a professional team like the folks at Champions that can profile all the properties, identify maybe some issues the property might have so you can proactively plan ahead on those things. Mark and his team has a wide and an extensive knowledge of different ways to buy real estate or to make a property that maybe is a diamond in the rough into a diamond. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That cream puff may never show up for you, but there are some great homes that you can make into a cream puff. You just need to have the right team looking for the right properties for you.
Yeah, and I think right now going into 2023, I think sellers are going to be more willing to negotiate. I think the last 2 years, it was like you submitted a contract and you're like, oh gosh, please accept my offer. I'm not going to do anything. I'll even give you X amount more. Well, I think now it's kind of like, all right, let's play nice in the sandbox, where the sellers kind of had all the leverage the last time. And now I think they're each property is going to be unique, but if you can get in there, and just work together for the common good, and I think rents are going to continue to go up. I think they're going to have to plateau a little bit because I don't think they can keep going up based on what wages are at. But I think that was some of those things that, just there may be ways to, maybe that seller, if that house has been on the market, I think I mentioned this last week, negotiate in it that he or she, that seller helps pay to break your lease to get into that house. Because maybe that seller needs to move on and get out of that house. And it's okay, well, $3,000, in the long run. A year from now, is that big of a deal, to get that house sold? And that should, and working together to find a solution to everyone to get into that house, to sell that house, and just different ways to negotiate that, that everybody kind of wins in the end. And I think the interest rate, I wouldn't, over the span of the 30 years that you may own that house, getting into it is the first step. I mean, it's huge because you can, I've had clients that I've worked with in the past that they've waited, and it's like, oh man, I wish we would have, Mark, I wish you would have told us to buy that house. Ultimately, my goal is to give you that information. I don't try to be a salesman where I'm trying to sell you the house. I'm trying to give you the information this makes a good decision. And, there's been a handful of clients that have come back, like, gosh, I wish we would have bought that house that, you said was a great house. And we just didn't feel like, for whatever reason, or, and I'm like, we wish you'd just kicked us over the edge and got us to that point. So it's sometimes, that's my goal, is to help you realize that and give you that education through that process. But ultimately, you have to do what's best for you at that time. Maybe it wasn't the best at that time, and everyone, the hindsight looking back, is always, little sometimes greener on the, grass is always greener. But yeah, so I think going into 2023, I think it's going to be a great year. I think it's just going to be an adjustment for, I think some sellers I've still talked to still have the mindset that they are in a seller's market, and they're going to get that, because I think some of the press clippings are still touting that somewhat. But, I think you have to come down to realize exactly what's going on. And that's our goal, is to help you. I want to get this for the house. Well, here's what the comps are, but you can't look at the comps that were 6 months ago where your neighbor sold the house. We're in a completely different market than we were 6 months ago, 3 months ago. And you have to understand that. And that's our goal, is to educate you. And maybe you hang on to that house, instead of selling it if you need to, and keep it as a rental and buy, and hang on to it if you got a lower interest rate in that one, or if you have to cash out refi, your interest rate's going to go up, but then you can always refi it back down too, if rates go down. But ultimately, you're gaining that appreciation, and as Russ said, from an investment standpoint, if you are looking at it and if it's got a bad furnace, bad, capital expenditures, which are your roof, your, the big ticket items, those are also write-offs as well. So you have to look at it from a different perspective. Yeah, you may pay $5,000 to get that new furnace and air conditioner in there, but that's going to be a write-off as it is an expense to that property. So maybe you're in a house that needs some of those things. Well, if you can keep it as a rental and it makes sense, then once it's a rental, then replace those items. And, so there's different ways to look at it, and it's not just like, oh my gosh, the windows need to be replaced. I've had clients I've worked with in the past that are looking at investment properties, and they're looking at it from a primary residence standpoint, that I'm gonna have to replace those windows. And well, if you're living there, yes. And if it's an investment property, you may get a little bit, ultimately talk to your CPA on what is, the best advantages from a tax perspective. But those are some items that you can potentially write off down the road. So if you do keep it, it might not be a bad thing, to keep that house and move, if you need a larger, smaller, upsizing, downsizing, and all the kind of fun things. But yeah, I guess I could go on this forever, but maybe we should try to keep these videos short. So I don't know, Russ, you have anything else you wanted to add or touch base?
Happy New Year, everybody. This is a great time to buy, great time to sell. Real estate has been strong and will continue to be strong.
Yep. Appreciate you guys. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions, give us a holler. My name is Mark Wehner II at the Champions Real Estate Team at Berkshire Hathaway. And then Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. We're happy to help you. I've got our contact information up here on the screen. So Russ is 290-8936 or myself, 672-7670. Happy to help you. And if that buying a house or buying an investment property or selling your house is a New Year's resolution for you, we'd love to connect with you and help you out and just get you that information to make that smart decision for you. So appreciate you and take care.